Good morning. Thank you, Cicely. And hello, everyone. I hope everyone's okay today.
Yeah.
Today's topic is family and well-being. So what is the definition of family? A family is a group of one or more parents and their children living together as a unit. What is feeling of well-being? Well-being is the experience of health, happiness, and prosperity. It includes having good mental health, high life satisfaction, a sense of meaning or purpose, and ability to manage stress. Why is well-being important? Well-being is fundamental to our health and overall happiness. Having a strong and well-adapted sense of well-being can help us overcome difficulties and help us achieve our goals in life. What is the importance of family in one's life? A family is essential in life as it determines a person's mental status, professional life, and behavior in the society around them. A family is just not limited to getting married, but maintaining a cluster of things associated with it. What is the importance of family? It is through a family that we learn the values of love, trust, hope, belief, culture, morals, tradition, and every little matter that concerns us and the society we live in. Children need to learn the importance of family and how family helps in building a strong future. Family provides a place we can return to. Family roots often extend beyond what we can see because our roots, our families, have experiences of their own, have life lessons that they are trying to impart on us. How does family affect well-being? Family dynamics significantly impact health in both positive and negative ways. Having a close-knit and supportive family provides emotional support, economic well-being, and increases overall health. When family life is characterized by stress and conflict, the health of a family member tends to be negatively affected. Why is family important for well-being? Family relationships provide resources that can help an individual cope with stress and enhance self-esteem, leading to higher well-being. The potential risks and rewards of these relationships have a cumulative impact on health and well-being over the life course. So thank you. Back to Cicely, and thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tombe, so much for sharing that. And really, we are still in the mode of reflections of our life's journey. And each one of us will have a lot to say about family and what it means, to our well-being. And looking back at the leaders we have seen in the past, and especially those we reflected on during the Black History Month. Yeah, if we pick on somebody like Nelson Mandela, he was once he once quoted and saying that he did so much for the countries, but he felt he failed his family.
Yeah.
We all acknowledge how much he did for his country and countries of the world. But for him to come up with that statement, he must have reflected hard and long enough to remember that. But then think about the other leaders we talked about. We talked of Kwame Nkrumah, we talked of Mugabe, we talked of Kenyatta. And coming to our country, to where we are all community champions. Let's think about our families and perhaps what we have done with them or for them and what they have done for us, and think about how that has impacted on our well-being. So coupled with what Tombe has discussed there, the question we could ask ourselves individually is, what does family mean to you? What does it mean to you and to me? So let me share a very short video clip to help us answer that question better. So I'll do that now. Okay, right, okay. So let me see whether you can see that. Oops. Can you see that video clip? No?
No.
All right, I'll stop sharing and go back to it again. So it should be there now. So what does family mean to you? Let's listen to this.
My mom makes me feel like I still have a father around because she supports me and shows me love by listening to me when I need to talk.
मेरे परिवार की वजह से मैं इस बुरी लत को छोड़कर फिर से पहले की तरह परिवार के साथ रहकर अपनी पढ़ाई शुरू कर पाया.
To my surprise, my father screamed with excitement when he heard my results, and I felt overjoyed and as happy as morning sunlight.
पापा हम सभी को एक जैसा प्यार करते थे. पापा ने हम में कभी भेदभाव नहीं किया. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं ये सारे एहसास मेरे परिवार से जुड़े हैं. मेरे घर में पापा है, मम्मी है, भाई है, बहन है और मुझे उनसे कोई शिकायत नहीं है. वो सभी मेरा ख्याल.
She said, "You don't have to have a big family to be a part of a family. We are still a family."
I stopped stealing money and I thank my parents for changing my life.
और पापा ने मुझे बड़े प्यार से समझाया, मैं यहीं हूँ तुम्हारे साथ, कुछ नहीं होगा, तुम्हारे हाथ हो. इसका इलाज कराते हैं और जल्दी ही घर चलते हैं. पापा की बात से मुझ में कुछ हिम्मत आई और मुझे लगा कि अगर पापा मेरे साथ है तो सच में मुझे कुछ नहीं होगा.
Yes, so that's a short story or a few views from across the world. But what does it mean to you? So let's hear your views from that video clip, but also from what Tombe nicely shared there. Anybody?
Yeah, it's all good when it's working well. But unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work well. And look at, we don't have to go far. Look at the news. This poor boy who was killed by parents, when it's working well, it's good. It's good. All the support, love, and kindness and everything. But, when it goes wrong, then, there's harm, death, like this little boy in the news now. As a health visitor, I feel so ashamed that this can happen, where professionals didn't pick up the signs, so it's sad when it doesn't work well. Yeah, but otherwise, 99% when it works well, it's all good. But 1% goes wrong when people are selfish and all that. So the family is there for support, love, and all that when it works well.
I like the caveat you're putting there. It's so good when it is working well.
Yeah. But otherwise, no, we wouldn't have this news, if it worked well. His dad, stepmother, where was the love? Eh? And where are the professionals here? I feel so ashamed that nobody picked it up. And this is not the first Victoria Kenway case and all the others which followed.
Yeah.
So when it's working, it works. But it doesn't.
And it is so sad that our TV screens have been poured with that, covered with those news through the week.
Yes, yeah.
And you look at the poor boy, you wonder, where was the family? I mean, where is the family setting here?
Yes. We are there to protect the weak ones, show love, guide, and all that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't.
Very true. So from the video clip there, the security.
Security.
Family is there for security. So in the case of the news we've been watching, we don't have that security.
Yeah, so.
At all. So, and remember we are talking about, family and well-being.
Yeah.
And when we think about the well-being, it's just not merely the absence of disease, but really all the other things like security, love, guidance, and everything else.
Protection and all that. Yeah.
Let's hear your views. We are approaching Christmas when families are supposed to be, family becomes quite important. But how it is demonstrated makes all the difference in the way people feel in terms of their well-being. So let's hear your views.
I think I'd like to extend family to community.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have reached a stage where our children are no longer with us and our parents are no longer alive. So we have to rely on the support of our friends and neighbors more than on the support of our children and parents. This is just a thought of mine. And this is where, the community becomes important. If you have any sense of religion, then obviously the church is a factor. And around about Christmas time, there's always the church to open up their arms, to support you. And then, so you have the social family as well as the physical family.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of the community bit, extending it to the family. So it's when the families are challenged, the communities are also challenged. And of course, nations are challenged. So you can see the crucial role that family plays. So really, then, as a community champion, it shows how important you are in sharing that love and really sharing that message that families are there for communities. And how do we teach that within our families? How do we teach that importance of communities within our families? It's a big responsibility. I think as community champions, this is where our input becomes very, very important. And you're right, John, in the absence of our family members, we have lost our parents, perhaps, those who still have them. It's a real blessing. Our children look up to us. And perhaps we also look up to our children. It's so that those family dynamics is how well we teach them in safeguarding our well-being.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And being a role model, good role model to them. Not only what we say, but what we do. Because our actions speak louder than words, as you know.
Very true.
Yes.
But maybe out of interest, and perhaps this is something that I've personally observed. do you think there are many family chaos during times like this, Christmas period, anniversaries, whenever that falls, whichever time that falls into, or birthdays? Do you think we have more family chaos around those times?
Yeah. It's a financial pressure and the time stress. Because so much to do, sending cars, to overseas and other places and buying gifts and all that, it's very stressful. Spending money and all that.
Yeah, very true.
Yes.
Very true. If you go to the post offices now, they are very busy trying to send parcels abroad. And then the problem will come when, some of the family members may not get them, and they'll start questioning why, why not? It's because of the financial pressures. Perhaps they may not understand. And, you end up asking the question, are you obliged?
Yeah, this is it. We feel that way.
Yeah. But let's hear what others think.
I also think as much as we're talking about this more chaos around the time, but there's also a bit of reconciliation in the sense that when there's special days come along, people tend to put their differences aside and say, let's move on and let's celebrate the happy moment. So I think there's also that element of not really chaos, but there's also that element of positivity for these special moments where you just want to go and visit your brother, you just want to go and see your sister, though you've not just been seeing each other eye to eye, but because it's Christmas, because it's anniversary, because it's wedding, they kind of bring you together. But the other aspect is also very valid. There's a lot of stress in terms of finances where you are required to spend more. And especially when it comes to the African background where you have larger families, that can really have a big toll. And especially that you have given others and not others, you've given small gifts and all that because you're trying to meet everybody, but then the family is just so big and it's almost impossible to cater for everyone.
Yeah, very right. Like, me, at the moment, there's somebody traveling to Ghana. So I feel obliged to send things. I mean, money at least, not parcels. So you cannot give one person some and leave the other. So it's a financial burden. But, you don't get this chance every day. So when you get it, you have to do something. You do it for your own sanity anyway. The people may not expect it, but you feel obliged, somebody's going, so send this, send that sort of thing. So we put that pressure on ourselves. I'm sure that people, they don't expect it, but we feel here.
Will you excuse me for 10 minutes? There are a few things I have to do, and I'll come back at 12 o'clock.
That's all right, John. We'll welcome you back. Yeah.
I'll catch up with you in a little while.
All right. Cool. That's fine.
Yes.
So, Grace, you've mentioned a few very important points there. That you do it for yourself.
Yeah.
For your own sanity.
Yeah.
And I think this is what we need to have in mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In as much as we feel obliged, in as much we will have financial constraints or other barriers getting in the way, it's important to know that you're doing it for yourself. Because if you're not well, it means everybody else is not well. So it has to be for me. Look yourself after yourself first before you can look after everybody else. And this is the message we need to be preaching out there as community champions. Yeah. Whatever you do, let it be for you, knowing that it will impact on your well-being. And if you're not well, you cannot possibly look after others well.
Yeah.
And I like the 2 points, the chaos and everything else that comes along with around this time. it's also an opportunity. It's also the same time that we need to cultivate for the opposite, the peace.
Yeah.
And everybody else's well-being. Yeah. So we have to look at it from both ways and really work towards that which will bring peace to everybody. Yeah, whether that is possible or not is down to us to decide. Our actions will have to be guided by how we feel.
Yeah.
But let's hear what others think. You're very quiet. Tombe presented very useful pointers there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, we are talking about our life's journeys. Yeah. So let's think about maybe the times we have taken to support our own out there, not just within where we are, but abroad, because of the love for the families. Just something to point at when it comes to, we're talking about well-being and more specifically on mental health. Now, we know that families have a lot to do with, mental health in terms of how we feel and how perhaps we don't feel. Now, think about stress. Do you think this is the most stressful time of the month when we're thinking about families? What does everybody think?
It's always, it's a well-known fact that it's stressful. You got gifts to buy and all that. Yeah, it's very stressful. And arrangement for Christmas, and now with the COVID, you don't know whether it's going to be locked down again, or we don't know. So it's a stressful time because you don't know how to plan, because we live in one day at a time. Today they say this, tomorrow they will say something else.
Yeah.
So if you had done all your food shopping and all that, and people cannot come, what do you do? So you'll be torn. That sort of thing.
Yeah. So the planning bit, I'm sure that's one of the things that James will be bringing to our attention in the end.
Yes.
But yeah, stress is one of the key ones, especially this time. And if the recovery college were around, they would be telling us some of the courses they have put up or they are learning at the moment. They are around managing stress because of the Christmas, coming up. So in the stress management, I think you have mentioned one of the ways to deal with it there, Grace. Planning ahead goes a long way.
Yeah.
Mastering your stress container that we have mentioned here now and again. Remember, a bit of stress is good.
Yes.
A bit of stress is good. Bucket. Yes, but it's mastering how full it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when it becomes too full and it starts overflowing, then problems start. And that's where we don't want to get into when it comes to thinking about the month we are in within our family settings.
Yeah.
And in addition to what you have said, and also Grace, and indeed everybody, including what Tommy actually introduced us to this morning, it's also about how we mentioned this the last time, that are you willing, are you courageous to discuss, to engage in difficult conversation that can reduce your stress level? Yeah. Because sometimes in a family, like Grace was saying, this is a time you send back home gifts, cards, and all the rest of it. It's quite time consuming, also demanding on your budget as well. Yeah. So it's really about how do you manage. If you were to send 500 cedis for somebody and then 400 cedis or 200 for somebody. How did you decide who gets what? You know, it's like you become the chancellor of the exchequer in talking about budget. You know, who owns what? Who is the NHS in your family? Who is going to get more budget or more money? Who is going to be the police force that are going to get maybe less, or the defense force? So it's really important to bring all of those analogies in our life, because they can actually help to either increase our stress level or decrease. And Cicely was asking, this time of the year, you know, who is chaotic? Whose stress level is less or high, and why? So we need to really look after ourselves, because this is well-being sessions. We need to really prioritize our own needs. Sometimes we forget about ourselves. How many of us, we buy gifts for ourselves every year? You know, you buy gift for everybody, and then I know you receive it from people, but how do you treat yourself? What do you treat yourself to? So it's really important for us to start bearing that up. Maybe in our tradition, we don't do those things, but we should. You know, looking after yourself is treating yourself with good things, you know, buy lovely clothes or perfume or anything. Just treat yourself that, look, I have been working the whole year and this is the end of the year, you know. And in addition to that, it's also about the arrival of Christ if you are a Christian. But it's also arrival of that family connection, isn't it? Because most people, we come together at Christmas. So it's not just about welcoming Christ, but how do you welcome your family? And I think it was Grace that said sometimes when you have, or Esther, when you have issues with a family member, but when they come to Christmas, we invite them back into our lives. How do you do that? How are you going to prioritize that? You know, what pain are you minimizing to encourage somebody who throughout the year has been causing some problems, and then finally in December, Christmas Day, welcome everybody, dinner, meet together and eat together, all those things. So it's really important as we go along this discussion. Let's bear that in mind. How are we managing it? And the third thing I want to add is, as we journey as a family, we are on the platform, you know, we are on this stage moving together. Who is on the stage with you? Who is not on the stage with you? And why are they not on that stage? You know, so let's bear that in mind. Let's begin to provoke those thought processes, because they can either increase our anxiety or reduce it in terms of who can I invite on my stage? And why should I not invite my sister, but my brother, my uncle, but not my auntie, you know, my in-laws, you know, vice versa, or my son who is not engaging with me, or my daughter who is not communicating with me. How do I break that barrier? So it's really important as we go along this morning and also this afternoon. I just want to bring that in to provoke our thinking around our well-being.
I think very important, James, bringing that up. You know, it's about thinking about all those things that could potentially get in the way of how well we are feeling, you know. And it could be anything and everything. And I think it would be very, very important if we understood what well-being is, so that we know what we are talking about. I mean, what we are working with here. So if I may, let me share this short video clip on what well-being is, so that it doesn't come across as it's only when I'm saying I have a headache or a backache, or I can't cook today because, you know, my tummy hurts. You know, it's not just that, but it's really about how we feel. We are feeling mentally. So allow me to share this short video clip so that our conversations can continue well. Okay, over to you.
What is well-being? Well-being is often described as the state of being comfortable, healthy, or happy. People who enjoy high levels of well-being are described as flourishing. In this context, flourishing means that the person enjoys feelings of happiness, contentment, and curiosity, and is able to engage fully with what is going on around them. Flourishing also means functioning well in the world. The person experiences positive relationships, has some control over their life, and has a sense of purpose. Well-being, therefore, isn't simply the opposite of ill-being. Just looking at what causes distress won't necessarily help us to identify the factors that give rise to well-being. Many researchers in the field have worked over many years to be able to more closely define well-being, with many agreeing that it is a global assessment of a person's quality of life, according to his or her own chosen criteria. The World Health Organization agreed that this is a broad-ranging concept, affected in a complex way by the person's physical health, psychological state, personal beliefs, social relationships, and their relationship to features of their environment. Understanding the role of our environment, and in particular our built environment, is an important area of research, as we spend up to 90% of our time either in site buildings or vehicles. If we can design and construct buildings that improve our well-being, why wouldn't we?
Wow. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot has been mentioned in that, including buildings.
Yes.
You know, buildings determine our well-being. How is that? But also, there's a lot of mention around, being comfortable. It's not about flourishing, being happy.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Yeah, it is balanced, the other areas, physical, mentally, socially, and all the other environment and everything. There should be balance. They must suit you, yeah. Yeah, so you can.
Hello, I'm back.
Welcome, John.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Community support.
Yes.
Yes, there we go. Thank you, John.
I had to make a phone call. Because without family locally, I have friends.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, John, I know.
Well, hopefully, although we don't know each other very well, we've got 11 friends, because that's the number of people on this Zoom meeting other than myself.
Yeah. Very much so. Very true, John, there to say that we are connected, and especially so committing the 2 hours together, there is no much commitment than that. It can be,
not really.
It can only be through, through friendship and through connections.
Yeah. And before we go on, James, all that you mentioned, you won't believe it, is happening in my family here. Being a chancellor, dividing, whatever you are sending to people.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'm going through them and I haven't finished. I don't know how to do this.
So Grace, how are you maintaining your post? Who is keeping you in that post?
well, I'm struggling at the moment, but hopefully it won't be long. And these conflicts in the family where you don't know how people are going to gather, whether to invite, they're all happening in my family. So when you were talking, I was laughing. I said, this man must be a prophet, a soothsayer. He's mentioning everything that is happening in my family at the moment.
Well, it's really good for us, Grace, because unlike John, perhaps we from Africa, there's no welfare system in most of our African countries. So particularly sub-Saharan Africa. So when you are the only educated or the one with employment, or you come abroad, and I think expectations are so high that sometimes you have to feed into that expectation. And it's really difficult to opt out. You're always opting in because there's some family crisis. You have to be the one that will preside over that crisis. It doesn't matter your age, as long as you're educated, you think you are wise and you have money, you can support them. And also when they have little demands financially, they also come to you. And some people don't even have any bank account, so you are their bank as well. So they are constantly searching for opportunities. But it's good for us, like Grace was saying, to get that awareness. How am I going to manage it? You know, how can I confront them with the truth that, look, the budget is low. You know, we need to work together to make sure that this budget is managed well. And in addition to the clip that Cicely was telling us, as in addition to quality of life, I also want to put this in. How do you achieve a good life, you know, a fulfilling life? You know, how, if you check yourself, what is fulfilling life, you know, and there was a whole work around that in terms of how do we achieve a fulfilling life or a life that is rewarding. What does that mean? I don't need any answers now, but if anybody has got answers, tell me what is a rewarding life, you know, because we often talk about quality of life, which is also a rewarding life. So what does that mean to you? Maybe your rewarding life is different from mine, but what are the ingredients? It's like when we are cooking, what do you put in that rewarding life when you say, oh, I'm living a fulfilling life, I'm fulfilled, I've achieved all what I wanted to achieve, or my dream, you know, has come to a reality. What does that mean? We often say this a lot. In fact, most celebrities I listen to or watch on telly, they always say, you know, this is my dream come true, or, you know, in reality, what does that mean? You know, what about us? We're not celebrities, but what is our own dream? Is it coming to light? Is it in reality? And are we embracing family members in our dreams? Are they part of it, or are they outside? So as we go along with this discussion, because all of this can help with our well-being. And I think we had what well-being is. It's not just about being happy from an external perspective, but also being happy from an internal perspective. Because when you have both, can be a good happiness rather than just happiness that is coming from external gratification. If they are not existing, then you're not happy. But what is your inner happiness telling you? So it's really important.
Thank you.
Wow, very well said there, James, really. And goes back to what Grace mentioned in the beginning. It's about you. You know, how do you feel after meeting all those, you know, obligations? Well, let me not call them obligations, but after meeting those good intentions that you have, how does it make you feel? Because that is what is very, very important.
Sure.
And you know, I think you rightly mentioned there as well, James. You know, this idea of you know, thinking about those we left behind, you know, those of our relations back in our respective countries. It's about having sometimes those difficult conversations. And I'm sure you'll all agree that most of those conversations sometimes don't come across very, very well. You know, having had most people share their experiences of what they do back in their respective countries. But then again, it's how those difficult conversations make you feel. Do you feel you have cleared your concerns? So really, however much they feel, you have cleared yourself on this end. Yeah, that's what becomes very important, because we have had cases where, you know, people's blood pressure has gone up because they have not been able to meet the needs of their family members back in their respective countries. You know, think about how that is impacting on their life here. Yeah, if not, you know, blood pressure and all the rest of it, is the effect it is having on their family setting here. You know, and I believe this is what Nelson Mandela meant when he said he spent a lot of time thinking about his country, his community, but not so much to his family.
Yeah.
So it's about having the balance at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having that balance goes a long way. And I want to imagine John has the same experience, having grown up in Zimbabwe.
Oh.
So
Right.
that's not very, it's not new to you. You know, you must have had experiences of your parents, you know, talking about, remembering their families back here and vice versa.
Yes. No, Zimbabwe was interesting because there were three groups of people, and I'll use the way they were described, you know, there at that time. There were Europeans and non-Europeans, which would be white and black these days. And then there was the intermediate group, people of mixed race, you know, because unlike South Africa, South Africa had very stringent laws against mixed marriages and mixed relationships, you know, which was very sad. But this means that the groups were, even in Zimbabwe, you know, were definitely segregated. They were restricted in where they could live. That, I mean, Alice would know this because she grew up in Bulawayo also. You remember Alice, who's not on this meeting today, but has been before. And that means, you know, even things like the health service, the hospitals were segregated so that there was a black hospital in Pilo and a white hospital, Bulawayo General. And I'm sure they're still there, giving support to people with illnesses associated with, what would we say? Illnesses associated with daily life, including COVID. Because I note that Zimbabwe has been put onto the red list because of Omicron.
Yeah,
and I mean, Grace will know this as well, because it sounds as if Ghana is going to be on the red list before too long.
Oh, well, yeah.
Which isn't very fair.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm from Ghana. Yes, it could be.
I know you're from Ghana. You mentioned Ghana earlier.
Yeah, it's sad. You know, I think it's spreading.
It is sad.
Yeah, like wildfire. So,
but anyhow, as I say, Bulawayo and Harare, you know, being the main cities in Zimbabwe, life for European people was quite comfortable, generally speaking, because all the good jobs were reserved for people of certain educational attainments. And it was only recently that that Black people could get into university. By recently, I mean within the last 50 years. But I mean, because when I was living in Harare, which was then called Salisbury, if I'd gone to university, I'd have gone to university in Harare, being the most economical way of getting to university.
Okay.
If I'd been very lucky, I'd have got a scholarship to go to university in this country.
Right.
But maybe it was fortunate that I didn't get a scholarship to live in this country, because my mental health might have been affected by being solitary in a country on my own. Because, you know, as far as the family in Bulawayo was concerned, you know, there was only myself, my brother, who's no longer alive, my mother, and my father. So, you know, we had friends, and friends were all in nuclear families themselves. But, you know, in Bulawayo, I had friends, and we did the sort of thing that children did, you know, go out on bicycle rides. Bulawayo was a very safe and secure place most of the time when I was living there. As I say, this is 50 years ago that we're talking about, but most of us can remember what life was like 50 years ago, I think, even if in certain cases, this is because our parents have told us what life was like in their childhood. And this is where oral history comes into it, because my mother used to tell me things about her childhood, and by extension, she was able to go back a generation or two to tell me about the things that her mother had told her. But unfortunately, this is all oral history, and very little of it has been written down.
And thank you, John. Thank you, John, for sharing all that, which is quite a lot really in explaining the importance of a family setting. Because in that family, all those many years, you felt secure, you felt loved. And so for you coming to this country, which was your home country, did not feel right. You know, you felt secure and loved, not discriminated at all, because if you remember the first video clip we watched about, family is, you feel that's a good sense of family where you're not discriminated. But then we know that that discrimination then extends to the communities, which is what we know has happened in most of the countries of the world. And, you know, that discrimination really has brought all sorts of issues that we are having to deal with. And you know the impact that it has had on your, you know, on our mental health in one way or the other.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, if you like to put it bluntly, discrimination is hazardous to your mental health, whether you're discriminating against or discriminating for. So the person who discriminates against other people, you know, they are mentally weak, and the people who are discriminated against, you know, I mean, which in this country is the minority group, but in other countries it's the majority group. Like in South Africa, you know, the Black community is by far the biggest, and yet they are not actually economically powerful, because at the moment economic power rests in the hands of a relative minority. Not necessarily these days white, but people who have contacts. And this is where, you know, South Africa is particularly bad, because people with contacts have decided that this means that they can enrich themselves. You know, these are the famous Gupta people, you know, who actually robbed the country of billions of dollars.
Yeah. So,
and this is the unfortunate thing with elitism, which is the way development probably happens. The elite think they are so wonderful that they deserve to be rewarded disproportionately. And that's not only in Africa. It's the case in Russia. It's the case in this country. The elite think they must get the lion's share.
yes, yes. And I am just wondering, based on that, John, and, a few pointers that you brought out there, is how we bring that down to our families, When you think about the things you do within your family setting, do you do more for some and not others? And what does that lead, what is the outcome of that? Yeah.
Well, as I say, I can't speak for other families because I have no family of my own. I have two children, one of whom's in Cambodia and the other in Germany. I have a cousin in this country. All my other cousins are in Australia. So I am very isolated and dependent on my friends.
And we are your family, John.
Well, friends and family, I think, are alike.
Yeah. Very much so. And I think the most important point you're trying to place here is to stick at to...
You're frozen.
Yes. To understand the importance of a family and how you can be a family to somebody else. Put those values out there so that as a community we thrive and flourish. And
yes.
Our mental health is safeguarded that way.
So in reality, because of my own history and because of the history of friends of mine, all of whom have mental health problems by being isolated from their host community. So I'm isolated from the host community in Zimbabwe. I'm not integrated very well into the host community in this country. I have a friend who is isolated from her host community, which is the Czech Republic. And we all have mental health problems to some extent, which if we were in our host community would be supported and understood far better.
Yeah.
Because the diagnosis is dependent on the culture within which you live. And so this is something that where the mental health facilities are weak, that they don't take into account the background of the person who presents with a mental health problem. They rely essentially on how they present at the time of a relatively short discussion, and they don't probe into why people have problems. They merely say, you have problems, take this tablet and go away for 3 months.
And John, thank you for sharing all that. And you've emphasized, or you've pointed on a very important point there, isolation. Isolation, we know, is a real public health concern. And we know that the services are doing as much as they can to address that, but are they really directly meeting the needs of individuals? And this is where the voices of all of us come handy. And John sharing that goes a long way in helping.
I don't know whether it's my computer or your computer, but yeah.
Oops. Sorry, did I miss that, John?
Hello?
Hello, did I miss that?
I think, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was saying you pointed at a very important point there, isolation, which is a big public health problem. And services are very much aware of that, which is why they are encouraging conversations like this, forums like this, coming together and really emphasizing on, areas like, the importance of a family, the financial abuse that we talked about last week. So having those conversations really help in trying to address, the isolation, which is a big, big problem nationally. So I really hope that, John, you feel part of this virtual community and that you are comfortable and okay to come and, share, have a voice, where you feel listened to and respected, because we need to have that voice heard.
Yes.
And also to buttress what John was saying, Cecily, I just want to respond from the mental health perspective. I know John mentioned that sometimes professionals rely a lot on what is happening now. I think also there are a lot of other services that can actually go back into history, but the fact remains, all of us, patients or professionals, need to understand that people's stories are people's stories and people need to be owners of their stories. So there are other services where perhaps there's a lot of listening, and I can give an example of talking therapy where they will actually listen to your story and you have to bring that on. Sometimes it's us that we also need to step up a little bit in terms of really trying to tell the story. And John mentioned that in an African context, nothing is written, but it's handed over from parents to children, and then generation to generation. So sometimes some of the information are accurate, in some cases they are not, but it's really important for us to be able to engage with our own stories. And I think when we actually write our own stories, we are able to read our realities well. If we don't write them, if we don't read them, we miss things. And when you are in crisis, sometimes it's so difficult for the professional sitting in front of you to take their eyes off the crisis and begin to talk about history, because the crisis that I'm going to end my life, I'm going to do this, has to be the priority. So sometimes we need to understand that. And when Grace used to do her job, her focus was also very prioritized. If she were to take off her eyes of that story or that particular agenda, things are not going to happen. We'll be talking about how social services are not looking at those details as it's really important to bring that in.
But this is where it comes down to, because some people are more skilled at getting a story done quickly than other people. Journalists are particularly skilled because they can get information out of somebody almost in a sentence or two.
That's true, John.
Very true. And I did respect you, John, because you've written an article in one of the small Mojatu magazines. I really hope everybody can have a hand on that. There is one of the editions that John gave a very, very good history of growing up and everything else, which I felt was very, very informative. So James, you can say that and again, because we own our own stories. We own them. And I think it's in this forum where we have talked about storytelling, the importance of it. Perhaps we can do that again going forward.
Well, let's say
Can I say
talking about,
something, John?
sorry.
John, you mentioned, you said a lot in your speech just now.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you haven't got family, we got family all over the world. You have to reach out to them, connect, phone call,
Well,
email.
I mean, that's practicalities, because I mean, Australia and this country are in different time zones. The amount of time that people have, spare from their other occupations is restricted. I'm fortunate that on Facebook, I can send occasional messages to my cousins, to which they respond.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to see 2 cousins in face to face, because they were able to come to this country before lockdown.
Yeah. So you do have family, and you got
So
people.
I do have family.
Yeah,
But what I was trying to say is the family the close family with which I was brought up was isolated, because my mother's family were in Australia, my father's family were in England, and in Zimbabwe it was just the 4 of us living in Bulawayo.
Right. Okay. So, wherever they are, reach out to them. They are your family. The connection is important. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you know, because you have traveled, you live elsewhere, you treat people, foreigners, differently, don't you? This is what a lot of people are lacking in this country. They haven't been anywhere, so their treatment to foreigners are different. But you have traveled, so you understand. People who haven't moved from Slough to London, when they see families, foreigners, they mistreat them. But you understand foreigners because you've lived in some Zimbabwe. So you felt, now.
So in reality, this is something that friends of mine say. We as part of the Zimbabwean diaspora were very fortunate growing up in Bulawayo in the 1950s and early 1960s.
Yeah. So it's your mind. Your outlook is different.
Indeed.
Yes, you understand foreigners and you treat them well. Whereas people who
and the other thing which is worth mentioning is the way in which you get information. The newspaper in Bulawayo, I think it was the Bulawayo Chronicle, was very readable. It enabled you to keep in touch with what was happening in the world on a day-to-day basis, because there was no television, the radio was limited, so all the information we got depended on the newspaper. And this is going back a bit. Reuters gave the information that was present in the South African, the stories that were printed in the newspaper were sourced from the South Africa Press Association and Reuters. And they gave a fair description of what was happening in the world. And that's where people now are perhaps a little unfortunate, that they like things in bite sizes. If you can hear something in 2 minutes, that's all the news, the news you need to know. Whereas in reality, a 20-page newspaper that you can read quickly during a half hour is a lot better way of getting information than relying on the radio or television, where the news is often sensationalized.
And to add on to that, John, we now have Snapchat. Think of the social media feed. Snapchat,
Because
Facebook. The information you get there is not, really informative enough to tell you about what the person could be going through, which then goes back to the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
That one remains quite important. And perhaps maybe I see Esther in the call. Esther, if you're still there, perhaps you can tell us how that session has run in the past and maybe the need to go back to it.
Yeah.
If you can, if you're still there. Hi, Esther.
sorry.
Okay, maybe Esther is not in a position, but what I will emphasize
Esther.
on is the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
It's your story, you own it.
Yes.
And you don't have to hear it from the news. After all, even if you're to take it to the TV or put it on the Facebook or Snapchat, it will just be a part.
Yeah. No. What I was trying to say is that attitudes are formed by the information you receive.
Yeah.
And the attitudes in the newspaper were friendly, whereas very often, for the sake of sensationalism, attitudes are hardened.
Okay. Yeah. So on that note, then it means reading one's story or understanding the full story will change the attitude one has on somebody or something else. Yeah. And those attitude changes are the ones that we look for when we're trying to work with people or to support somebody out there. Because then you understand the full, you understand the background. You understand where the person is coming from. Yeah. Very, very important.
Yes.
So maybe in a nutshell, I mean, as we continue, families are all about flourishing. They are made to flourish. Yeah. All things being equal or all being well, there should be no issues to get in the way of that flourishment. The happiness that the families are meant for or are created for. But then for us as community champions, then it is important we understand those barriers or those potential barriers that might come in the way of, they will get in the way of us flourishing as families, then which spills to the communities that we live in. And as it was mentioned in the last video clip there, buildings also come into play. They will determine our well-being. If you think of the houses we live in, how well do we look after them? Yeah. And it's no wonder somebody says, or one of the Holy Bible, the Holy Book says, your home should be the heaven. So how well do you set your home to be that heaven such that your well-being is well catered for?
Well, there, hopefully all of us are lucky that we have a home that we can say is ours. Because you've just said it, your home is your haven.
Yeah. That then goes to say there are those who don't have a place to call home. Yeah, and you know that, and how much we really cry for their support, or rather for support to reach to them.
Yes.
So think of those who have no homes of themselves, and what they could be missing and the impact that is having on their well-being.
Yes.
Very sad.
Yeah. So it's a challenge to us.
That obviously isn't good.
No, it's not. Yeah. So then it becomes a challenge for all of us to work towards creating homes or families that are stable. And when I talk of us or having that responsibility, it's about talking to our, in our neighborhoods and in our religious places, and really our communities, so that we can promote healthy family relationships. That then will impact on the way mental health is experienced, not just within our household, but also within our communities. So the final comment before James comes to give us the takeaways. Anybody with final comments?
Well, there are a few other people who haven't got anything to say because they're all muted. So I'm just wondering whether Tombe had anything he wanted to say.
You've put me on the spot now.
Thank you, John.
Whether you have family or not,
Yeah.
the main thing is always to have a positive attitude
Yes.
and a positive mindset. Doing that, you will attract, or you'll manifest positivity, and you attract positive people around you. So even if you don't have family like yourself, Sir John, you attract friends around you.
Mm-hmm.
And inherently, humans are a social creature.
Yeah.
And we need the comfort and the company of other human beings. So just maintaining a positive attitude, I think, will help you find good people in your life.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And in turn, find well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was saying, John, that positive attitude has attracted us, as you have attracted to you. We have all been attracted to you, so you have attracted us to you. So yes. Importance of
nice of you to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We value you, John. We value you.
Yes.
Very important. Yeah. Yeah. So as I was trying to call you in around storytelling and the previous sessions we have had around that, I don't know whether you have any views on that, and perhaps the need to
got
continue
an unstable
with them.
internet connection.
It's true. My network just went flurry and then it came back. Thank you, John. But I just wanted to make a comment which Tompe has actually made, and I thought maybe he read my mind, where I was saying that we need to change our mindset in terms, yes, we have our nuclear families, but I think one of the things that we need to appreciate, we have a very special community, which is a family around us. And there is this saying that says that there is a friend, there is a community member who can stick more closer than even your biological brother.
Yeah.
So in this forum, I have just had people refer this forum as a family forum.
Yeah.
Where we kind of feel for everyone's pain, where we kind of smile with everybody's happiness. So I want us to be positive about who we are. We are so special, and we belong to a very special community family who really care so much about us, and we need to care so much about them. And so I wanted to say, yes, the role of a family is so special in our lives. And somebody said, in the ideal world, it's supposed to be a happy, thriving family. But because we live beyond circumstances that we cannot actually avoid, like COVID, you find that issues come up. But then we need to be positive that we have a family that cares, we have a community that cares, and we need to address the issue of lonely and isolation by joining this kind of forums.
Yeah.
These forums have they have helped me personally grow, because I hear people's stories that I say, wow, somebody has gone through these challenges and is still standing, and says, it's because I had this positive mind. So there are tips here and there in these forums that people have shared their own life stories that have just helped me personally to kind of stand on my feet, remain positive, and say that I'm not going to give up no matter what. I'm just going to carry on until I achieve my dream goal, until I become successful, until I can become the best Esther that I can be. So these forums have been really important to me in terms of encouraging me, giving me a very different perspective, and just encouraging me to remain positive, like Tompe has actually said. Thank you.
I agree with you, Esther. It's just family for me. And I miss it, when I can't make it. So I make sure I drop everything and come. It's my family, Zoom family. I tell everybody, you are all my family members.
Yes, you're one of the people who said that. I regard this one as my family, and you've always emphasized that this is a Zoom family. We actually connected, I remember, and let me just give an evidence of just why I'm saying that it's a family. There was a time last year around this time when I was unwell, and people were just sending me wishes in the forum, and I felt like, yes, this is my family who care about me, not only when I'm just happy and talking and shouting, but they care about me when I'm not able to stand up. And they say, how are you today? We missed you, Esther. Those kind of sentiments, they kind of make me feel positive, and they improve my mental health. So yes, this is a family. This is a forum family.
Yeah, can I share that? One day I shared something here, and I was at a GP when Shalom and the other lady, what's her name?
Stella.
Yeah, she rang. I was taken aback. I said, what? I was just, overwhelmed with joy and tears and everything. I don't know. I was at a GP. And she followed me up. What else? Even my church doesn't do that. So it's the family. Family who cares? So John, you come to a family, okay? So love you lots, eh? We value as well, So feel free. We are your family.
So very, very important point there, that family and well-being is key. It's important we master it and share it out there as we continue. And saying that, as James comes in, next Tuesday, we won't have the virtual meeting as we are, because we are nearing Christmas. I know many people are quite busy doing what they are doing, but as you notice, there are some of us who are not here, they have not been around, because we have a face-to-face luncheon club or luncheon group going on. At those who are in Reading, it is at I'll remember the place before we finish, but they meet there every Tuesday, 11:30 to around 3. So we will all be going there to connect, and we will see Grace and so many others whom we have not seen.
And Judy.
And Judy, and all the others. So next Tuesday we won't have this. And of course, Christmas period is coming, so perhaps we'll meet again in the new year. We will send the information going forward. But this Thursday we are meeting, is our last one, not the last one, I hope. Yeah, it's not the last, but we will talk about, the social connections. We are still on the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence. So we'll be looking at the support. We've talked a lot about the issues, financial abuse, domestic abuse, and so many other abuses, but what is the support network that is there? So we'll be exploring that, and we'll have the Berkshire Support Network joining us to tell us more. So please share the link with your contacts And let's connect on Thursday. And tomorrow, of course, we have the seated exercise. We can't do without that. So James, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much. We started off our journey this morning, and part of this afternoon, we're trying to understand what a family is, the unit itself, and then the extended family members. And then I think Tony took us through that nicely. And then he also talked about who is in your family. And I think when we are responding to John's claim that he's got no family, we said, well, what about us? What about the extended family you have come to make and also join? And, you know, you have attracted us to that family. We also have attracted you. Remember, sometimes when we say success can be attracted, we don't find success lying somewhere in the street. We have to attract it in our life. So that's the same way we attract family, and also make sure that we maintain that. And then when we also look at it, we've been talking about how do we grow up together as a family? You know, what do we need? You know, we talk about the communication, we talk about love, we talk about attachment, we talk about opportunities that we share, and also time of conflict as well. You know, so I have conflict and also resolution and also peace. How do we confront our conflict when we are families? How do we approach it when somebody is doing something that is not really going according to the values of that family? Because every family has got values about everything, about money, about illness, about food, about defense, about spending money, about talking. We all have different values. If you put all of those together, values can also be developed. We can grow them. So it's also important to remember that as well. How do we resolute? How do we form? How do we problem solve as a family? So it's really important for all of us to bear that in mind. That can actually start with you and your husband or your partner, your children, your sister, your brother, your friends, colleagues at work. How do we manage conflict? You know, are we people that run away from conflict because it's terrible? Or are we people that can really courageously meet somebody and say, look, the way you make that statement, the way you did that is really against me. It's not happy with my well-being. Because let's focus today is well-being. How do we maintain a good well-being? I think we've all heard the definition through the clip, and we also talk about the quality of your life, and to fulfill your life, to have a rewarding life. All of these things are needed. And then we also talk about how do we attain peace? What is peace? What is it? When you're at peace with somebody, what does that mean? So these are some of the questions I need to bring in to provoke you for the rest of the week, so that you begin to think, when I'm at peace with my friend or my children, what does that actually mean? What is in that peace? What are we doing that that peace has been achieved? And then moving away from that briefly, we also want to look at our individual well-being within the family. We all have different approaches to well-being, but that is also connected to the family well-being as well. For some of us, perhaps, who have been to doctors, and then the doctors are asking us, does this illness run in the family? Or do you know of anybody in your family who probably died with this illness? And for some of us in sub-Saharan Africa, you have to be fortunate to meet a medical practitioner in Africa that will actually tell you that this is running in your family, because postmortems are not that common. So GP asking you, does this illness run in the family? What is your answer? It's, I don't know. So I don't know mean we're not able to prevent or protect ourselves. So our well-being becomes very, very important. For example, issues to do with coronary heart disease, diabetes, IBS, any illness that can be inherited. It's important for us to be aware of our well-being, because we don't even know whether our parents or our grandparents who pass away die of it or not. So we don't know. So it's really important. I'm bringing that in because of those values that we hold to illnesses. There are some families that have very strong values towards particular illnesses. It's also important for that family to be aware. So that's really quite key. And when we move from collective well-being, we go to community well-being. As part of the community, since this pandemic, we not just manage our individual well-being, but coming together as a family has actually enhanced the community well-being as well. And that can then take us into societal well-being. How are we connected with the wider society? You know, face mask, preventing, having COVID jab. Who has got COVID? How do we connect with them? How do we contact people who are not well? You know, people who have passed away. How do we bury them? How do we say farewell to them? These are all part of societal well-being as well. So it's really important to look after ourselves this week. But one big assignment or homework, perhaps, as we approach Christmas really is, I really want to invite all of you to really begin to think, how are you going to invite your family member in your life at Christmas? How? What do you need to do? And because in addition to expecting the child Jesus at Christmas, how are you inviting people that are coming to your life at Christmas? People you have not contacted. What are you going to do about it? So let's really think of that. So that, because this is something I would like to review when we come back, maybe either before or after Christmas, but just thinking, how are you going to invite somebody in your life at Christmas? It's really important. In addition to the child Jesus that we're expecting, what are you doing in inviting people or expecting them? And how do you welcome them in your life at Christmas? What do you do? You know, and I used to remember going home for Christmas, you know, was a joyful moment. And I would meet my mom. Everything is prepared. The fattest cock is there waiting for me. So, but what are you going to do? How are you going to welcome, you know, your family member, whether it's a friend, extended, or whatever? So let's have that as part of our discussion. But this is something I really want you to work on in terms of going forward. And I want to wish you all a lovely, lovely week. And we'll catch up again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.